Next, we'd like to call, please, Alicia Jackson, followed by Carly Van Buiten and Dawn Matos.
Good afternoon, everybody. In January of 2023, our family was relocating across the country to my home state of Connecticut on military change of duty station orders. During our trip, we stopped in Tennessee to visit family for Christmas. During this visit, my husband was changing my 6-week-old twin son and heard a pop. This prompted us to take him to the closest emergency room to get him checked, as any concerned and responsible parent would do. The Children's Hospital ordered labs, x-rays, and CAT scans. The x-rays revealed that our son had a fractured humerus bone. The hospital said the injury was suspicious for non-accidental trauma and called in CPS, or Child Protective Services. Both the hospital and CPS requested an eval of both of our sons, including our other twin who was with us at the ER. We both gave permission. At this time, we were not allowed to have unsupervised contact with our babies. The next day, the hospital discharged the twins back into our care, but later that night, Child Protective Services called, instructing us to bring one twin back to the ER. A different radiologist identified old and healed fractures not seen by a previous radiologist. CPS threatened to take both our sons away if we did not comply. At the hospital, I asked about abnormal lab results, potential birth injuries, and brittle bone diseases, but my questions were dismissed, attributed solely to non-accidental means. Child Protective Services then took both of our 6-week-old twin sons into the Tennessee foster care system. Through legal support and collaboration with advocacy groups, we sought second medical opinions of highly qualified medical experts. Pediatric specialists, including a pediatric orthopedist and radiologist, identified vitamin D deficiency rickets in both twins, which was evident in their x-rays. The deficiency causes softening and weakening of the bones. A geneticist and endocrinologist also evaluated and diagnosed the twins, my mother and I, with a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. The syndrome has been known to cause easy bruising and skeletal fragility. Despite sharing these clear medical findings with Tennessee Department of Children's Services and CPS, they still refuse to give our twin sons back. Our next court date is July 25th, marking 572 days that they have not been in our care. When our twins were taken, we awaited an agonizing 7 weeks for the approval of a court-ordered expedited interstate compact agreement. This allowed the twins to move to Connecticut under CT-DCF supervision. There were a lot of delays in getting a provisional approval from Connecticut due to all the requirements that the Compact Administrator's Office requested. These were not federal requirements, but rather the ICPC's office requests. The home study was already approved, and the house was deemed safe. Criminal background checks were done, as well as financial and medical documentation secured. A thorough review of the requirements set forth by the Compact Administrator's Office during a provisional approval of an ICPC should be a priority, because making these changes would be in the best interest of the children involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your story with us. I understand how hard that is, and especially to come in front of a room full of people that you really never met before and talk about these things. So thank you for sharing your story with us. Are there any questions? Rep. Pizzuto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Jackson, I know in 3 minutes you synopsized probably the most terrible thing that can happen to parents. Is there anything that you wanted to expand on? I know you said 500 plus days for the next court date, but is there anything?
I can tell you we have not stepped foot in a courtroom to have the ability to testify that we did not abuse our children. We have 4 medical experts ready to testify to that exact fact. Tennessee has seen these reports. The courts, they have not given us an opportunity to do so. I can also tell you that the original judge that took custody away from us was just recently asked to step down and was charged with 4 felonies and pled guilty to, I believe, at least 3 of them, and he's awaiting sentencing as we speak.
And my last question to the chair: are you able to visit your children while you visit your parents or someone has custody?
Yes, sir, we do. My parents have custody of both the twins now.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative Lanou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Jackson, Thank you so much for this which is I'm sure a very painful testimony for you. As a representative who represents your hometown, I wish I could say I know what you're going through, but no, I don't. I wish I did. I can just imagine the pain. I can see it in your face and in your voice, and I really hope in some way we can alleviate whatever we can do to alleviate this and just get closure to this one way or another here. This is, I can't imagine. With that, and I want to be clear, I want to ask you about Connecticut DCF. And again, I want to be clear with the line of questioning here. I am not saying anything that they may have done right or wrong, or my concern is what they can or cannot do based on legal restraints, because you're going from A, Tacoma, Washington, to B, Groton, Connecticut, in military service as a military family, and transiting through and having your feet on the ground in a third state at the time. There's what I'm hearing, and I just want to try to make this clear, whether it's through ICPC, a piece of ICPC, or what the child advocate talked about today, the UCCJEA. What I'm curious is to back this up. You mentioned the pediatric reports,
Yes.
the pediatric endocrinologist, and that did an assessment on you and your mother, I believe you said.
Yes.
And their reports. Again, I want to make crystal clear. We're talking about Tennessee, a place you're in for a minute, but your home state, you're resident here, and I'm just curious. Did Connecticut DCF say to you, or were they willing, or do they have the ability under current law, based on these interstate compacts, do they have the ability to review this and make a decision and protect you and your family as Connecticut residents?
They do not, as it pertains to the twin boys. They are strictly bound to just supervising the visits and allowing them to stay here and have the ability to give reports back to Tennessee on how their boys are doing and if we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing to get our sons back.
Okay, and again, and I think I had gone through this with your husband, his testimony earlier today, that essentially under the underlying matter that happened in Tennessee and their decision to take your children from you, we can't look into it right now under the way that these, based on these compacts. If Connecticut DCF was willing and able, ready and able to do it in a minute, we can't, because another state made this decision based on your on transiting from the West Coast to the East Coast for military service. Another situation I know that came up. By the way, congratulations, you had a baby girl.
I did.
Since being back in Connecticut. Has this at all implicated, with this whole matter with Tennessee, with your twin boys, did anything arise as far as custody regarding your baby girl?
Yes, it did. So when she was born, about a week after, the worker that kind of supervises the contact between Tennessee and Connecticut, she filed a report that my daughter was born, and based on Tennessee's allegations, said that predictive neglect was potentially there. CPS came out, did an investigation, CPS in Connecticut, and unsubstantiated that. And our daughter lives at home with us, and she's perfectly healthy and good. The Attorney General for the state of Connecticut reviewed all of the medical records we had from our specialist. She also reviewed whatever Tennessee provided to them to support their case. And Connecticut here, DCF, the Attorney General, told us we could have our daughter at home and that she was safe and we were not a harm to children.
What medical records are you referring to? I'm sorry. Was it for
The Tennessee medical records that Tennessee is using to keep our children away from us.
So the boys'
There's-
medical records.
Yes, and then, yes, sir. And they also reviewed our expert report saying otherwise. And they made the determination that she was safe at home with us.
I think I've done my two, so I'll yield back.
Bless you, thank you. Did you already ask? I'm sorry, it's blending. Representative Dauphiné.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here, Alicia. It's just impossible to get every single piece of this case out in this short amount of time where we only have 2 questions. But we're trying hard to get what's most important and what's most compelling to the state of Connecticut to let them know how perhaps we can make these intercommerce relationships work better. I know you spoke about the doctor who saw your boys in Boston, and I wanted you to expand on those results and Tennessee's response. And I know that I wanted you to just speak a little bit about, now that you have a daughter and you've been able to enjoy her at home, most of us in here are parents, and we know how wonderful that is to have a newborn at home and be parents and being able to spend time with them and put them to bed at night. I know I think I recall you saying you were nursing her. Can you just expand on the impact and the trauma that brought to you and your husband with your inability to do all those things are so precious? And now we're looking at, they're 14 months old. Tennessee is not, yeah, and Tennessee has not once had you back into court to defend yourselves, or it's been 14 months. They made an allegation in one visit, your boys were taken away, and they've been gone ever since. And you know, I just want to say, if you were here in Connecticut, there's so many advocates here for you and so many people that we can work with, and we're minus that because this case is in Tennessee. So if you could expand on a few of those things. One, the doctor, I wanted to hear a little bit more about that, and one about the impact it's had on you and all of your family.
Yes, I will do my best. So back in July of this past year, we went up to Boston University and met with Michael Hollick. He's a doctor. He holds a residency there at the university. We also met with a geneticist, and they reviewed our medical records. They did full evaluations of both myself, my mother. They looked over Matt as well, and both the twins. And we were diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a clear clinical diagnosis. A report was written up, and we presented this to Tennessee, who basically rejected it and said, you know, this is something we'll talk about in court when the time comes, kind of thing, instead of acknowledging it and allowing us to have our children back. And they've done that subsequently with each report, you know, a pediatric radiologist report and a child abuse pediatrician's report and an orthopedist surgeon's report. And so here we are still fighting that. And then the second question, can you repeat that again?
I just wanted you to expand on the trauma that it's brought your family as a result, and all of this time that's gone by that Tennessee hasn't addressed this issue. We're looking at, when are you going to court? In March? Is it March?
That was actually pushed back again, now till July 25th is day one of an adjudication.
Right. So right now your 2 boys spend every night with your parents and not with you and your husband. So, you know, the trauma of that and what that's like.
And also bringing up a daughter now who isn't around her siblings. It's a multitude of things, but it's something that we're working on the best that we can. And then re-experiencing it again because of the non-resolution of Tennessee and having to go through it with our daughter as well was extremely traumatizing. And we're doing our best to keep it as normal for our boys as the older they get and realize we take their sister home every night, and you know, they're starting to realize mommy and daddy, they don't stay, they leave, and they take sister home. You know, they're starting to come about and realize those things. So we do the best we can to keep it as normal as we can.
Thank you for your testimony. I know you heard the commissioner here earlier. She's new, but we've talked to her. She's very committed to hearing more about this case, and I think she's agreed to meet with Representative Lanu and I, and we are committed to working through this on the Connecticut side of things, and hopefully we can make these commerce compacts better and more favorable to our residents of Connecticut. And for people like you who've experienced this situation, we thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Ranking Member. Are there any other questions? Representative Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to yield both my questions to Representative Lanu.
How gentlemanly. Absolutely. Representative Lanu.
I thank the good Representative Hayes, and I thank you, the good chair. Mrs. Jackson, I know we can't forget about the past. I'm not suggesting that. But what I do want to ask you is what we certainly can do as far as this bill before us, 5263, which currently the language that's currently in there, it's saying to the DCF commissioner and also to the chief administrator to come up with a report to be able to say, are these, right now the language has to do with the ICPC. As you may have heard some testimony earlier from the child advocate, Sarah Egan, who I would love to see also included in here to overlook this, to see give her suggestions as well. So I guess should I get this all in one question here? If we were able to modify the language in here to include the child advocate as a person to overlook this as well, is there any? Do you think that? Do you agree to that? And is there anything that we should also include in here for language to hopefully try to see what more Connecticut can do that it's not doing? In your situations like yours, other military families and other families from Connecticut that just happen to be in another state and these situations arise. So,
Yes, so I think my husband touched on this some, and I 100% agree with him. I think that it would be great to have Connecticut be able to review the case when they're given these ICPC contracts and have the ability to not only report back to another state that had sent the child about how the children are doing and how the families are doing, but also to have the ability to review and make their own independent decision based on the medical evidence that they're given and the medical records to decide if maybe it was in the best interest of the children to potentially be returned also, and be able to at least weigh in on it, because right now they're not able to. It's binding for the ICPC. They're just basically report givers, so to speak. But I think that with such an important role that they're maintaining the safety of the children, they should be able to have a conversation about where that children or child will be placed overall.
okay, so as to examine again the language in this bill before us, to have if we bring in do you think we should bring in a child advocate?
Yes,
to weigh in on this, and do you think we should? Do you think it should be a little bit even expanded a little more than just the ICPC? Also incorporate the UCC JEA in there as well. That compact that the child advocate was talking about.
Yes, I absolutely do.
So okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Mrs. Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Madam, if you wouldn't mind.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. You weren't dismissed. No, really, I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to take a moment to just kind of talk to you mom to mom, right? You don't know, I'm known to everyone on this committee here as I'm the one that gets upset. I'm the crier when we talk about mom issues. I understand and I absolutely feel for you. And the more I hear about what happened, I recognize why you reached out, right? I see like you're helpless because all of these things are out of your control, and it looks like these laws are the ones that are keeping you from your kids, and I totally get that. I will say that Representative Lanou has been an incredible advocate for you. The amount of times he's called and texted me about this, I can't even tell you. And then of course you have Representative Dauphiné, who's a ranking member on this committee, and they're both really committed to helping find a solution. I guess my concern here is how do we find a solution when it's really out of our hands? Because this seems to be really a Tennessee-born issue. The bill that is in front of us is actually about looking at those interstate compacts. So I just want to have you understand and recognize the issues that we as a legislature will run into in the attempt to solve your problem, because we're not sure it will actually do so. Because these interstate compacts, they affect everybody. And if one state changes something that takes us out of the compact, and what the compact does is it also helps us keep tabs on Connecticut children who are in harm's way that head to other states. So, it's about working together. I think there is very clear evidence based on what you provided that Tennessee, that there are some major issues there, what you said with the judge or how they're acting. So I guess this is forming into a question. Once the case in Tennessee is done and adjudicated, will you then plan to spend time here? Like, do you believe that you'll be remaining in Connecticut even when the case in Tennessee has ended?
Oh, absolutely. I was a resident here for 27 years and grew up here. The only reason I moved is because my husband was in the military and we moved together.
And so this is now going to be your home base for long term?
Yes, sir.
And I
Ma'am.
think
No, sir. Sorry.
I think the good news is that in your testimony, when you were asking a question, you were asked about what Connecticut DCF did, and that they came in and you said, excuse me, that they did their due diligence and they looked at the family and they decided, and the Attorney General's office decided that there was no need for further oversight from Connecticut DCF, correct?
They check on her to make sure she's doing good, but yes.
There's no additional oversight. I understand where that could feel like a bit intrusive, but I think then once the Tennessee issue is gone, if it happens that there's actually no case left, that it's completely dismissed, the likelihood then that you would not have involvement in DCF would be much greater. And so I just want to create realistic expectations that if we open up a compact to change it, that creates problems in a million different areas and actually technically doesn't even solve your issue. I thank you so very much for bringing these to light, because we do need to look at them, if only for the purpose of a greater understanding of how things happen in real life. But any changes made to the compact besides us dropping out need to be done in concert with 49 other states. You can't change a compact only as it applies in one state. That's the issue with these compacts. It's an agreement between everyone. So if for some reason we don't find a path forward legislatively, I can say unequivocally that having Rep. Lanou and Rep. Dauphiné fight for you and your family is going to be just as good as if we were able to open up the compact and look at it and make some changes. I feel that it's a little overwhelming for us to do that and out of our jurisdiction. But as co-chair of this committee, I wanted to make sure that you know that we heard you, we understand the issues, and if there is a path forward, we will look at that, but there is some concern. about our ability to do that. But you've absolutely been heard. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and telling your story.